This is Steven Diego, and you're now tuned in to Breaking Down the Breakdown. On today's episode, we are going to talk about what it's really like to stay at a psychiatric hospital. Hello, everyone. Welcome in to another episode of Breaking Down the Breakdown with me, Steven Diego. How are y'all doing? I know you guys can't answer me. I wish I could really hear everybody's responses, but you know what? That's okay. I just want y'all to know that somebody out there is truly wondering how everybody is. I was supposed to have a guest today, but we just couldn't meet up. Our schedules were just not working, and that's fine. I'm trying to bring her back for next week. Hopefully it works, because I'm really excited about the things that we're going to talk about. But I'm going to cut right to it, because this is kind of an important episode for me. And I hope you guys feel the same way about this. But I was inspired today because I started noticing a lot more homeless people around the area that I live. And one thing of note, this is kind of heavy, y'all, but one thing of note about these homeless people are they visibly have a mental health disorder or are going through a mental health breakdown. And it's always been kind of one of those situations where it's really hard for me to watch, because I want to help. But when it comes to moments like these, only professionals can truly do a proper job of giving them the help that they need. And unfortunately, there's no hotline, or at least I have no idea if there is a hotline that we can call aside from 911, because, I was Googling it, like how to help out these people or to get them to a shelter or whatever it is. And, they're just call 911. And it's very alarming that in all the searches, it's like me saying I'm trying to help these people, and if these people are being disruptive, call 911. And that is kind of what's really heartbreaking about this entire situation. Are they being disruptive? No. The ones I was seeing were not being disruptive. Can they become disruptive? Absolutely. And we want to get to the point where we're able to help them out before they get to a place where they can become disruptive. And this is what prompted me to want to talk about today's episode, because I myself have stayed at a psychiatric hospital before for what I was going through with my OCD and the psychosis. And I truly believe that a lot of people are afraid of even imagining what it's like to be there. I feel like they think of it as prison for the mentally unwell. And for a lot of people, they have negative connotations attached to going to one. They're afraid, they're ashamed that people are going to find out they were admitted once upon a time, or they were admitted yesterday, or that they're going next week. And, one of the things for me is I never actually thought I would sit here and talk about this experience, because I felt like, it's not like I'm trying to promote it, right? That's not it at all. All I'm trying to do is I'm trying to encourage people to get the help that they need. And if that means they're going to end up having to go to a psychiatric hospital, then so be it. Because it is better than not being able to improve. I just kind of wanted to start off with that because it's a very touchy subject, right? How many people have we come across where they were fine, they seemed fine when we met them, they were, I hate to say the normal word, but they seemed like they have it going on. They seemed like, they shit under control. Like, we're like, damn, all right, good for you. You're holding up your job. Like some of them have kids, some of them, are just living their best lives. And then years down the road, you meet them again and something is off. And it's incredible. Not in the great sense, but it's just wow, because sometimes you can tell right off the bat that something happened and something ain't right. Sometimes they can't even look at you. Sometimes, when you talk to them, they're just talking about something else, completely something else. You can just tell they've changed. And this kind of positions us in this talk, right? It's giving us this position where could we have done something? Could they have done something to prevent this from being what it is now? I can talk about my experiences with going to the Psych Hospital. And, if we go back 6 seasons ago about my story of how I ended up there, I called telehealth because I knew that, it wasn't an immediate emergency, but I was terrified, right? Because I didn't want to hurt anybody. And it was at that point where for me, I felt like if I do this now, my life will never be the same again. And I'm so glad that I did. I'm so glad that I called for help. Not only because when I got there, they actually essentially told me that I was fine because, I was in the right mind to call for help. Which, by the way, still really irked me when they tried to send me home because I didn't know what I was dealing with. But one of my biggest things was, if I had never called for help, what would have happened to me? After months, years of therapy, of getting to know myself, I knew I wasn't able to hurt anyone physically. It's not in me. And that's why my immediate reaction was to seek help whenever the intrusive thoughts kind of like came in like strong waves. But I always wondered, my quality of life right now, would I be able to speak about things the way that I do now? Would I be able to still hold my job? Would I be able to still stream, still sing, right? Make content, whatever. And it's like staring into a whole different world. If I did not ask for help, what would have happened to me? These are questions that unfortunately a lot of people do not have the luxury of asking. Or rather, they have the luxury of asking what could have happened if they did seek help. Whenever they would have moments where they were, out of that state. And it's so heartbreaking to think about. This is why it's important. If you or someone you know is going through it, please encourage them to seek help. Maybe get them to listen to this episode because I am going to talk about what it's like to be in a psych hospital. But it's not like in the movies. I will tell you that right now. It's not like in the movies. I kind of expected it to be like American Horror Story Asylum or something. This is just the horror fan in me. I was like, oh no, it's going to be like this. Or even Girl Interrupted with Winona Ryder and Angelina Jolie, right? But it's nothing like that. I guess it also really depends on the kind of disorder that you're going for. They do evaluate before you get in. It's a lengthy process. It's a lengthy interview, right? because they really are trying to figure out why you are going there. And it's a lot trickier for people like me who, voluntarily went, right? But one thing of note was when I first arrived there, they wheeled me in. I remember that. I was all drugged up because, it... Oh man, just recalling it, it's a little triggering. I apologize if this triggers anybody, but, I'm being triggered too, okay? It's all my fault. But I remember being wheeled into my room, and I was terrified. They take your phone away at nighttime. It's more so to help you sleep. I believe it was 10 p.m. Then they take the phones away, and they bring it back to you the next morning anyway. But I remember my first night there, and I was alone in that room, and it's just like a normal hospital room because the psychiatric hospital I went to, actually, it's just a wing in a general hospital here in Toronto. Shout out to 7 West, by the way. I admitted myself to 7 West. The people were fantastic. I got one of the best cares I think I could have ever gotten. I don't know what it's like at other places, but the people that I met, the people who helped me there were very kind and very compassionate, and I feel like it's very important, right? Especially in that line of work. But we see movies sometimes and we think they don't want us to leave. They want to keep us there forever. It's actually not true. They want you out of there like yesterday. Not because they don't want to help you, but because they want to see you succeed. But not just that, but because there are actually people in dire need of these beds. Right? And that was hard to understand for me because when I was going through it, I was not good. I was terrified. I was so scared of hurting others. Now imagine my second night there and they wheeled in someone else to stay in the room with me. I mean, it was a big room, right? So like it does fit 2 beds. And it was this older gentleman. No, I did not make friends with him. I don't know what was going on with him. He wasn't, rowdy or anything. He was very quiet, actually. And being there and observing somebody else go through it allowed me to truly reflect on what I was going through. Now, mind you, for those of you who forgot, right? I talk about this like every episode, right? With my OCD. It's harm OCD. So my intrusive thoughts are violent, right? My intrusive thoughts are, oh, I'm going to go push that person down the stairs. Oh, I'm going to go stab this person. Oh, I'm going to go kill this person. Oh, this, oh, that, right? Like clockwork every 2 minutes, right? Still happens today. That's kind of the thing. That's OCD, right? It never goes away. You just get better at it. You just get better at dealing with it. You just get better at allowing these thoughts to kind of fade into the background, right? And it's been 4 years for me. So I have 4 years of practice, and there are still days where it would really like rattle me. Till this day. There are isolated days where I'm like, fuck, shut up, but not the right approach. You have to be kind to it and to yourself in the process. But so imagine somebody else being wheeled into the room while I'm having these thoughts, knowing what I'm going through. And it made me feel some type of way because for me, it was like, well, shit, like, did they believe anything I was saying? I thought I was going to go kill my best friends. And here's a random stranger? Come on, right? So what they do at night is they actually give you Ativins. They give me Ativins. It's a tranquilizer. They help you sleep, right? Unfortunately, my anxieties are so high that they work for 3 hours. I remember going to bed at 10, and I woke up and it was still dark outside. And I was like, you know what? Maybe it's early in the morning. Oh, hell yeah, it was early in the morning. It was 1 in the morning. And I tried to go back to bed and I couldn't. And so I was up late at night, alone with my thoughts. Well, not alone with my thoughts, actually. There was that guy that was there, right? And it was terrifying. Now, mind you, at this moment, you're probably like, oh my goodness. And they didn't know? They didn't know you were up? No. They did. There's cameras everywhere, right? So they know if you go into the hallway or do whatever crazy stuff, right? Like if you're just like doing cartwheels or like anything else. But one thing about being in the psychiatric facility was, when I say it's not like the movies, I mean you really feel the warmth. Sometimes you do feel super alone. But when the nurses come to check up on you, when the doctors, they briefly do it. It's literally a 2-minute visit to see how you're doing. But the nurses are always there whenever you needed them. And even that night that I was up by myself, and I did end up wandering to see what it was like. And just to see someone, just to see a really kind face behind the glass window of the whatever that office was, asking you if you're okay, if you need anything. Sometimes you forget what you're going through, and it lets you know that somebody cares, no matter how terrible things are. I mean, that's at least my experience there at 7 West, right? So that's why I say shout out to them, because they really took great care of me. The next few days, I remember, they feed you, of course. Is the food good? No. It's hospital food. But if you like hospital food, it's not bad. They have really good pudding. I do gotta say that. They have really great pudding. But that's when I kind of started questioning, what is so bad about being here? If I were being honest with y'all, I actually wanted to stay longer. And they were very against it. And I understand why. I wanted to stay longer because I felt safer there. Because I knew that there were professionals ready to help me at any moment in time. But that kind of mentality is not good. Because it creates dependency. And that's exactly what they're trying to teach you. It's the opposite of that. Is that you can do it. I saw my visit there as one big exposure therapy. To let me know that through the worst that I've been through, who I truly am inside will always prevail. And it was probably one of the most valuable lessons I learned throughout my journey with OCD, right? Going there, the help that I got wasn't that I got medicated. The help that I got wasn't that I was in a bed, strapped, so that I couldn't move and it couldn't hurt anybody. No, I was free to move. I had all the freedom. I was on my phone. I was on Instagram. I could have done whatever. But it taught me that knowing there was a security blanket there, I was able to function quite well. And I was so afraid of losing that. I remember the last day I was there, and the doctor, at this point, they didn't know it was OCD still. They still thought it was a brief acute psychotic disorder. That's what I was diagnosed with. and they could not have been more wrong. I mean, I think they were right because that's what I went through after the edibles, right? But the aftermath wasn't that. So I was medicated for the wrong things for a while. We'll talk about it another time. But my last day there, I asked them if I could stay, and they said, "You're doing just fine. You were not even supposed to stay here. But you were adamant and you wouldn't leave the hospital." And already in that moment, we knew you were going to be fine. Because people do not fight for something if they're out of it. And that really resonated with me. I caught myself at a good time to recognize that I still needed help, or that I need help, and to actually act on doing that instead of acting on the other things that my intrusive thoughts want me to believe I want to do. I had that luxury of being able to do that. And this is why I wanted to bring that up. This is why I wanted to talk about this. Because at that moment, I threw away my fear of going to be institutionalized. I threw away whatever pride I had left because I was so afraid I was going to be branded as crazy. I was going to be branded as mentally unfit. I thought it was going to affect anything and everything in my life if I went. And I do not regret it 100%. If I had to do it all over again, I would do the same things. I would still fight to be admitted because it taught me a valuable lesson. It allowed me to understand what it's like to truly seek what it is that you need for yourself, especially if you're going through something that you do not understand. A lot of us try to brush these things, sweep these things under the rug, only for it to create a giant dust bunny that'll come to haunt you at night. The moment that you feel like something is off, start looking for help. There is nothing wrong with it. There is nothing wrong with going to a psychiatric facility, a psychiatric hospital. Zero if you need to, because that's what you need to do for yourself to improve your quality of life or to not let it affect it, right? I remember in one of my walks through the hallways of 7 West, because you can hear it, like in the mornings they open the doors, you know. It's not like the movies, guys. It's not dark and drab and just gloomy and dreary. No, windows are open. It's very bright out. It feels like a classroom almost. I mean, my view was obstructed by the buildings, but whatever, right? I mean, I still had great windows, big sunlight, loved it, right? But you can hear through the walls, you can hear through the doors. And it's heartbreaking being there. I knew what I was there for. I knew I was struggling, right? And it was painful for me because even I was going through my stuff. But I can't help but think how fortunate I actually was that I still have control over my thoughts. Because some of the things that I saw or heard during my stay there, I'm glad for them that they're lucky enough to have been able to, be found, or to have family members who were able to do that for them, or friends to do that for them. Because that kind of behavior they exhibit, they're actually some of the behaviors that some of the homeless people with mental health disorders exhibit. And they're out there without access to the very things they need the most. It's kind of funny because I really wanted to share my experiences of being in a psychiatric facility, and I thought it was going to paint more of a picture of what it's like. And I think I did that, but I really want to go back to the beginning of this podcast as to what prompted me to want to talk about this. I could have been these people. Any of us could have been in that position. This is what people don't understand. And this is why I'm so disappointed when I see people make fun or just get really angry at homeless people. Any of your friends or family or loved ones with a mental health disorder could have actually ended up that way. These people are people too. They also had bright futures ahead of them, and they still do. But unfortunately, they just weren't able to get the help that they needed at the right time. And I guess what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to ask people to be more compassionate, to be more empathetic instead of sympathetic, when you encounter other people going through this. Not just homeless people, but other people. Because there are people where they have mental breaks and they were fine, and all of a sudden they're not fine. I've been working at Starbucks for 9 years now, and I've seen many people come to the store. They were fine. And then the next week, it's like a completely different person I'm talking to. And then the week after, they were fine. Everybody has mental breaks. You just don't know when it's going to happen sometimes. Or sometimes you do know, but you want to pretend like it's not going to, and it takes over. Ultimately, just to wrap things up, because I know we're running out of time, ultimately, do not be afraid. If this is the kind of help that you need, I encourage it. Especially if you go on your own terms. You get to decide. I mean, they kicked me out earlier, but you get to decide when you want to be there. You get to decide when you are better, how you are feeling. They're not some, like conspiracy theorists like to paint it like they're going to hold you there forever the moment they find out you're going through this. No, stop believing that. They're healthcare professionals. Believe me. And they know how many other people are out there needing their help. And I feel like it's our responsibility for all of us who are able to make decisions for ourselves to do so. To get the best help we can get so that we can also help others in our circle. Or if we dare to, random strangers. Just please be safe. My goodness, please be safe. I mean, just please assess the situation before you do it, right? Like, again, like with today, there was someone around the vicinity of my workplace that was just circling around, and she was causing a ruckus. And I wanted to go out there. And I did go out there. And I wanted to talk to them. But they weren't even speaking English at this point. They weren't speaking any language at this point. They were just yelling, mumbling random things to themselves. And you don't know if they're in a trance. You don't know if they're there. And the moment you kind of cross paths or touch them, you might startle them and something might happen to you, right? It's these things you got to just watch out for, right? But I'm saying, try to be proactive. You just really never know what people are going through. And if you are going through something and you don't know what you're going through either, but you know it's something, get the help that you need. This has been Breaking Down the Breakdown. If you want to be on the show, we are on Instagram, Breaking Down the Breakdown Pod. Long name. You can email me at breakingdownthebreakdown@outlook.com. But remember, guys, you owe it to yourselves to take care of yourselves and to get the help that you need the most. I will see you guys. Stay kind. Stay compassionate. I love y'all. Goodbye.